What's up, guys? How's it going? We are doing our first EDH themed video, and this one comes from just the fact that I fell in love with this commander, and yet I haven't seen this commander really take off, and people are really ignoring this commander too. It took like weeks for just decks to appear, and at this current time there are 45 decks of this recording of me recording my voice. There are 45 decks, and how many of them are even there are 38 of them that are human tribal, and 9 of them are +1 counter decks. So I wanted to talk about this because I've been talking about this with my friends for a while now, and I fell in love with this commander right off the bat. So I'm going to try to do my best editing job I could possibly do. I'm new at this. I've never edited for Commander or EDH, so I'm going to attempt to do my best. Bear with me. But let's get into Kyler Sigardian Emissary. Reads like this. So he costs 5 in total, 3 colorless, a green and a white pip. And he is a legendary creature, of course, because we're using him as a commander. He is a human cleric, and his effect reads, whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control. Let's stop there for a second. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control. It says enters. So that means if you cascade a human in, if you cast a human in, if you reanimate a human, if you make a human token, any type of human that enters the battlefield, Kyler is going to get a +1/+1 counter. So, put a +1/+1 counter on Kyler Sigardian Emissary. That's his first effect. His second effect is other humans you control get +1/+1 for each counter on Kyler. Period. So, what does that mean? That means that if any counter at all is on Kyler, let's say like a vigilance counter or a flying counter. There are some creatures that give counters that are not just +1 counters. Even if you give him a -1 counter, he still buffs the rest of the humans you control. And the interesting thing is, for Kyler, I didn't see him initially in any decks on EDHREC. And EDHREC doesn't represent the entire community, but at least they represent like the thoughts of the community, or at least some type of representation of what a medium amount of the majority are thinking or are putting out there. So Kyler wasn't even showing up in the pre-con. People were taking him out that they were posting decks online. And it wasn't until, the 29th? Until the 29th when decks started popping up for Kyler Sigardian Emissary. So some of the cards that have been with Kyler have been kind of questionable. And the reason, or even cards that aren't with him have been kind of questionable. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's Kyler that sparked my interest for EDH recently and Commander, because I immediately saw him, read his effect like 3 or 4 times in my head just to make sure. I was like, there's no way this commander is this good. And it seems like other people haven't really caught on to it yet. So I'm going to lay out a couple cards that do correlate with him pretty well. So first I want to jump outside the box. Let's say you don't want to do human tribal. Let's say you want to do something else. Well, there is a card from Kaldheim, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with. Her name is Maja? I don't know exactly. Maja. She should be on the screen. Maja Bretgard's Protector. I don't even know how to say that. I'm not going to butcher it any further. But she is a legendary creature. She costs also 5, 2 colorless, 1 green, 2 white pips. And she is a legendary creature, human warrior. Her effect reads that other creatures you control get +1/+1. That's pretty good. All right. So her next effect is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 human warrior creature token. So with Kyler, all you need to do is have Maya and Kyler on the field and just play lands. This is a Landfall deck where not only is Kyler going to get big, but those humans are going to get super big. The reason why this is such a good combo is because when you add in a card that has not appeared in any of the 45 decks on EDHREC list, Karametra makes this a 3-card combo. And the reason why I say this, let's say you want to go wide. All right. So you have a lot of humans. Let's say you just go with utility humans like Champion of Lambhold or Thalia's Lieutenant, Thalia herself. Let's say you just want to get like some utility humans out there that are going to support what you're doing, but not be the focus. You know, you're not just rapid firing humans out onto the field just for the sake of playing humans. So you've got these humans that are like setting up a control like board state that are like Thalia, who prevents, you know, your opponents from having their creatures enter the battlefield untapped. Or you play, let's say you play Grand Abolisher. Grand Abolisher is a 2-drop human. Okay, you just 2 white pips. That's all it takes. He is a human cleric, non-legendary. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. You know, this is during your turn, so they can't do anything. They have to watch you play your turn. A card like Grand Abolisher is great with Kyler because your opponents can't do anything on your turn. So while you're playing humans like Grand Abolisher, who are preventing things from happening or making your plays safe on your turn, Grand Abolisher is getting bigger. So let's play this scenario out. You have Kyler on the field. Let's say you get him out. You don't play any other creatures until you get out Kyler because you want to play this effectively, right? Kyler hits the field. He's 5 mana. All right. Obviously, next turn, if he stays on the field, hopefully, which normally he does because no one sees him as a threat so far. He stays on the field. You play Maya next. Okay, now you've played Maya. You hold your land for turn. And this is actually something I've done in real life. This is why I'm saying this. You play Maya. Kyler gets a +1 counter. So Kyler becomes a 3/3 because another human enters the battlefield. He gets a +1/+1 counter. Then you play your land drop for turn. So that 6th land enters the battlefield, or you know, whatever, however many of you man around. That next land enters the battlefield, you create another human because of Maya's effect. So what happens is Kyler gets another +1 counter, making him a 4/4. Well, Maya now gets +2 from Kyler, making her a 4/5. That human token that you just played off of that land drop, that you just got from the land drop from Maya's effect, now enters as a 3/3 or a 4/4, depending. So how could it be so big already? Well, Kyler has +2 on him. Maya has +1 on her to all other creatures. So Kyler, in fact, would be a 5/5 with Maya on the field after playing that land because he's getting 1/1 from Maya. This is also going to get very complicated, which is why some people may not want to play this deck. It's a lot of micromanagement. I'm going to be honest. It gives me a headache every time I play it. So that token comes in as a 1/1. So it's going to get +1 from Maya, her Anthem effect, to all creatures on your side of the field. Then Kyler is going to give it +2/+2 because it has 2 +1/1 counters on it. That's how this deck ramps. This is how, well, not ramps, but you know what I mean. This is how this deck builds up creatures and why it's such a threat so early on. So let's say you add in Karametra. You get Karametra down on the field the next turn. That's 5 mana. Let's say you have the 2 white afterward. Okay. Karametra's effect is whenever you cast a creature, search your deck for a plane or forest and put it onto the battlefield tapped. And she is a god. She's also a 5-drop. So you can see where this is going. All the good cards are in 5s. So with Karametra hitting the field, even though she's a god, she's not a human. But when you play Grand Abolisher, you cast Grand Abolisher from your hand. Grand Abolisher enters the field. He's a human. Kyler gets a +1 token. Karametra says, oh, you casted a creature, search for a land. When that land enters the battlefield, Maya now creates a 1/1 token. So where is Grand Abolisher at now? He's pretty high. I'm not going to do the math because it's going to give me a headache and I have more to talk about. So that's something that's different. No one's putting Karametra in their decks. In the 45 decks, no one has Karametra in their decks at all, and they're playing human tribal with a lot of humans. They're playing like around 35 creatures, but none of them are Karametra. So you're casting creatures. You have Maya, you have Karametra, you're ramping from Karametra, and then you're adding creatures, making the whole field stronger. Literally, when I did this, I one-shotted my friend for 90-something damage. I don't even remember. It was like 98 or 95 damage because there were so many +1 counters on Kyler, and then there were so many Anthem effects from Maya and from some other human creatures. And then you had Adeline, which I'm not even going to get into right now, but there were so many creatures and so many counters. I think Kyler had like +17 counters on him, plus Anthem effects that were going to all of the humans. It was madness. So, when you add in other effects that give trample, flying, double strike, etc., it just gets even more out of hand. So let's think outside the box. We're going to shift to a different section. Kyler can be versatile. He doesn't have to be human tribal or +1 counters tribal. He can also be an Enchanter deck. Now, you're probably thinking, how could he be an Enchanter deck? Well, that's when we go to a card that is very different. It is a commander by the name of Siona. And I hope I'm saying that right. I wish Magic cards came with like pronunciation at the bottom and flavor text, like just phonetic ways of saying their name. So Siona came from Theros, the recent Theros. She's the captain of Pyles? I think that's how you pronounce that. Like I said, I'm butchering names. So she is a 3-drop human, 1 colorless, 1 green pip, 1 white pip. And when Siona enters the battlefield, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an aura from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, that's her first effect. And you're probably wondering, what does this have to do? If you see the card on the screen, you know where this is going. So her second effect is, whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So for playing auras, Kyler now becomes an Enchanter with Siona on the field. So you swap out Maya. Let's say for the sake of this example, you swap out Maya, who has Landfall create human tokens, for Siona, who has play auras create human tokens, and you have the same effect but slightly different. So let's add an aura that might be a little different. So there is an aura that came out recently in the Midnight Hunt, which is called Cathar's Call. Cathar's Call is 2 colorless and 1 white. Enchantment aura. It says enchantment creature. It says enchant creature. Enchanted creature has vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 human creature token. Now, if you put that enchantment onto Kyler, Siona is going to make a human, which Kyler is going to get bigger. Then Siona gets bigger. Siona is a 2/2. So Kyler gets bigger. Siona gets bigger. The human tokens get bigger. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to create a human. What are some other humans that support this theme? Actually, Enchanter decks use a lot of humans, whether you realize it or not. So you have Heliod's Pilgrim. Heliod's Pilgrim, when it enters the battlefield, it searches for an aura in your deck. You reveal it and you add it to your hand. You have Mesa Enchantress. Mesa Enchantress is whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. There are a lot of these cards like this where you don't even realize they're humans until you really start to look at them. And there are more cards. I'm not going to get into all of them, but there are great effects where if you want to do this, you can. There are different ways to do it. You can create Kyler as a Voltron and use equipment, because there are a lot of humans that reduce the cost of equipment. Then there are a lot of humans that allow you to draw from equipment, and other cards that allow you to benefit from equipment. So Kyler is very versatile. You don't have to just use him for human tribal. You don't have to just use him for +1 counters. As you saw, you can use him also for an Enchantress themed deck in the same colors. You can use him for a Landfall deck. Now, you don't always need Kyler at the helm. You can just put Maya at the helm for a Landfall deck and just focus on lands, adding in Kyler to the 99. Or you could do an Enchantress theme with Siona, with her at the helm, being the commander, and put Kyler into the 99. It's still going to benefit you either way. But Kyler is not seeing a lot of decks. In fact, in decks where he is just a card in the 99, he's only in 92 decks right now. That's 2% out of the 5,125 decks. So he's not even seeing a lot of play yet. And I know it's early, but if you're in the colors of green and white and you're running humans, or you're playing human tokens, or you're playing aristocrats, mostly aristocrat themes would be really good with Kyler. This is something that could really help you out, where a lot of these new cards, they're pretty good. Some of them are hit and miss, but most of them are really good. And there are even more cards that you can, use to kind of just maybe make people fear you, or maybe other strategies that you can throw in. I'll add another one into the example. A new card that recently came out was, I'm going to butcher this, but Sarith, we'll go with Sarith. That sounds more feminine. Sarith, the Viper's Fang. She was a recent commander that came out in the Midnight Hunt. Sarith, the Viper's Fang, is 2 colorless and 2 green. She's a 4-drop. She's a legendary creature, human warlock. Her effects are: other tapped creatures you control have Deathtouch. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. Her third ability is you can pay 1 and tap Sarith to untap target creature or land you control. Okay. Now, the reason why I bring her up as a card that you could also play with Kyler is because of that Deathtouch theme. So with Sarith, you have Deathtouch, which I'm pretty sure most people might have paid attention to at first, but then quickly forgot about him. And I'm going to bring up another card before I bring him up. You also have Bow of Nelia, the god from Theros. Nelia's bow, or Bow of Nelia, sorry, I keep saying that backwards. Bow of Nelia is a 3-drop legendary enchantment artifact, 1 colorless, 2 green pips, and the first effect reads: attacking creatures you control have Deathtouch. This is great because that kind of partners up with this Deathtouch theme we can do with humans before I get into the next creature. So, Nelia's Bow of Nelia, I keep saying it backwards. Bow of Nelia has other good effects, really good effects. If you want to read on screen, go ahead. But then there's also the creature that's the reason why I bring this up. So in Kaldheim, there was a legendary creature by the name of Finn the Fang Bearer. Finn the Fang Bearer is a 2-drop legendary creature, human warrior. He has Deathtouch. And his effect is Whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Now you're dealing poison damage to your opponents, and as you know, it only takes a few hits with poison to kill a player, but it's specifically putting on 2. And it's 2 per creature. It doesn't say whenever 1 or more creatures. So for each creature that gets through, you're doing 2 poison damage on top of whatever damage you are if they can survive the hit. The thing about that is you have synergies with other humans that want to do these things. You know, it's not like it's that much of a stretch because humans do a lot and they've been around for so long. Another card would be Tireless Tracker. Tireless Tracker, going back to the Landfall theme, Tireless Tracker is a 3-drop human scout, 2 colorless and a green. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Investigate are clue tokens, which you can then sacrifice to draw cards. So whenever you sacrifice a clue token, Tireless Tracker second effect, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Now there are other cards that go with Tireless Tracker and Kyler. So recently there were some more cards that came out, but we're not going to go into all of them. But a few of them would be like Tamio's Journal. You know, like that card gets you, and it'll be on the screen. Tamio's Journal will get you clue tokens. There are a lot of different ways to get clue tokens, especially in green. There are tons of ways. And then there are some other things that you may or may not know. So back in the old Innistrad with Tireless Tracker, you have Olven Ward Mysteries. Probably butchered that. This enchantment costs 3 to drop, 2 colorless and a green pip. And it says, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. The second effect is what we're really paying attention to here. Whenever you sacrifice a clue token, put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield. So you see where this is going, where you're getting draw, you know, you're playing lands, you're making clue tokens, well, you're investigating whenever you play a land, and if you're playing Maya, whenever you play a land, you can get a human and you can investigate to get a clue token at the same time. So while this is happening, you're building your board, you're making creatures, you're making more creatures, you're making certain creatures bigger, and Kyler just supports this theme to where you don't really have to think about it. Even if you go with Maya at the front, let's say, for your Landfall's Human Tribal deck, and you throw Kyler into the 99, you still have Tireless Tracker in there, which is another Landfall theme to partner with Maya, and Tireless Tracker is a human. Then you have the enchantment, which also continues this theme by whenever you sacrifice these clue tokens to draw cards, you're making more humans. So Kyler and all of these themes, you know, there are a lot of tribal cards that are going to support this too, but you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger, you're creating more humans. And overall, it just becomes something that's different, you know. Of course, like I said, Kyler is new, so the thoughts behind him are new, but these are all the thoughts that I had and the strategies that I've been struggling with for the past, you know, however long it's been since Kyler was shown. Like I said, today is the 29th as far as this is recording, but I've just been going through all these things in my head and trying to figure out what to build and what to sit with, and it's just like all of them are so good, and I don't want to build 4 or 5 decks for just one commander, but that's how versatile he is. And there are plenty of you out there who could probably come up with more different strategies, but here are just 2 or 3 that I came up with, you know, that were just from me reading Kyler. You know, even if you don't want to put him as the main commander, just having Kyler in the deck makes him really valuable, and then makes your decks really powerful, where you can just go off, you know, and kill someone unsuspectedly And then, of course, with, cards like Vigilance on them, you have Heliod himself who can give you Vigilance, or you could go with the Ajani Planeswalker from War of the Spark, which gives Vigilance, and other, enchantments in white that have Vigilance. You have Privileged Positions, which gives you hexproof to all your permanents. And there are other permanents other cards in white and green that give you hexproof too. That there's so many things. There are angels that give you hexproof. There are cards that give you indestructible. There are auras that can give you indestructible and flying. This deck really has no ceiling, but in a good way. It's limited to humans with Kyler, but at the same time, it's not limited to you have to just rapid fire humans all day in order to make Kyler better. You could actually go with just a couple humans like Maya, Siona, Tireless Tracker that are just key pieces to your engine, instead of going with humans across the board, 35 to 40 humans, where they have, vastly different effects, or you're trying to double up on certain effects like Kyler, to where humans are coming in, getting plus counters, getting bigger, and other things. There are lots of options, but you just have to sit there and think about, where are humans? Humans are everywhere. And that's the thing you got to remember. Humans are everywhere. They may not have a lot of support because due to Ikoria, a lot of the good green support was for non-human creatures, which kind of sucks. So you don't really have a lot of draw. And then some other cards that are kind of questionable that you lose, which people are still adding into decks, which I don't understand why. There are cards like Mentor of the Meek. Yes, Mentor of the Meek will draw you cards, but you'd have to have nothing on your field in order for that to happen, because Mentor of the Meek wants you to play creatures that have power of 2 or less. And when they enter the battlefield, you pay 1 generic mana and draw a card. The problem with that is, if you have Kyler on the field and Kyler has, let's say +5 tokens, by the time you play Mentor of the Meek, Kyler goes up to, +8 or +7. And then all the tokens that you're creating from, let's say, Maya or Adeline or Siona, they're all coming in as plus whatever Kyler has, because they're entering the battlefield with the pluses that he's giving them. So you're losing out on the draw factor from Mentor of the Meek. That's not really a good card that's going to synergize with you unless your field is dead and you're just trying to throw out humans to get yourself going, or like say someone just board wiped and you're trying to get back on track. But at the same time, there are just better options to refill your hand. And I won't get into that in this video, but this video has been going on for almost 30 minutes, actually 30 minutes. But this is just something I was talking about, like just the options that you have. Look at what's going on, and looking at Kyler, he is very powerful. He's going to make all your humans powerful. All these little 1/1, 2/2 humans that seem very weak, that wouldn't even last if Elish Norn was on the field, now become stronger than Elish Norn. And you can even put Elish Norn in the deck to, make them bigger or to make your opponents weaker. And then there are other cards that help you out. So, I won't do a full deck list or deck tech, but I just wanted to talk about some of the things that you could look into with Kyler Sigardian Emissary, to where he's someone that is more than just a human tribal commander. Yes, it's still going to be human tribal regardless, because you want him to get stronger. You want your other creatures to get stronger along with him, because he believes in no man left behind. Well, no man or woman left behind. That's kind of like the theme of his card, which is truly Selesnya. He's a true Selesnya commander. Take the community with you. If I grow, we grow. If I get stronger, we all get stronger. No person left behind. But it doesn't have to be just, let me just throw in a bunch of really good humans, or a bunch of humans that people think are good, and, hope for the best. It can be better than that. You can go with Landfall. You can go with Voltron. You can go with Enchantress. And I'm pretty sure there are other things you could go with. that I'm not even thinking about because I haven't thought of it yet, or it hasn't crossed my mind yet as far as a theme that could be, you know, further thought out. So that's it for me. If you guys found this video helpful, or if you would like to have more videos like this, if you want more ideas, or if you would like a deck tech or a deck list for Kyler, or even my current deck list, I can make a video out of it, post it, let you guys see it, dissect it, see if it's something that you're into. But until then, let me know how this video was in the comments. It's probably going to take me forever. Like I said, today's the 29th. It might not be released that week, but who knows? I got to learn how to edit. So this is my chance. And other than that, it was nice talking to you guys. And I hope I'll be back to do another one. All right. Peace.